Welcome to Boxing During Dinner. David, could you believe we're actually saying that?
It's kind of
That's
surreal.
crazy.
It still doesn't feel real.
Well, Boxing During Dinner, we started a long time ago. I guess almost like what, 10 years ago? Actually, it was
Uh,
10 years ago. And because I remember I got married almost 10 years ago. So
it's
definitely
great.
10 years ago.
We shot an episode at your wedding.
We did, and then everybody jumped me at the end. I don't know what that was about, but Boxing During Dinner's back. We said why the hell not? Boxing During Dinner was a popular show thanks to you guys that are watching it right now on YouTube. Um, it was something that we were so passionate about. David Barry, my partner in crime from back then, is back. Alex Sanchez, who would shoot the episodes and edit, he's back. He's going to be editing and putting this together to make it look nice for you guys. He's currently in Los Angeles. We're all in Miami. And obviously with COVID and the changing climate of everything that's gone on, we're here via Zoom, like everybody else has been doing for the past year. It'll allow us to bring some cool guests for you guys until we could start bringing them here to Miami. We'll get a budget, fly them in. Why not? Uh, and our
Big
third
ambition.
and the third member of Boxing During Dinner, who's not a stranger to boxing, to our friendship, because we're all friends. Victor Bermudez. Victor, welcome to Boxing During Dinner. Officially a part of what we call the Big Show, right? That's what we call it.
We're working on some of that to our viewership here, all the loyal followers. We're working on the official label, but yeah, let's
Right.
go with the big show for now.
So welcome, Victor.
I appreciate you guys having me. I would watch religiously, so I'm familiar with the program. I have my lobster mac and cheese ready to go. So let's get into it, man. I'm excited to be a part of this, and really looking forward to it. And obviously, have known you guys for quite some time. So excited to be a part of this new project.
Yeah, so things have changed since the last time, and this is the appetizer portion of Boxing During Dinner. Things have changed since the last time Boxing During Dinner was on the air. For instance, I have a 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old, right? He's three and 10 months around there. That's crazy. David's about to be a dad, so that's pretty freaking cool. I remember when we started, I was about to get married, and now we restarted, and David's about to be a dad.
Life comes at you fast.
How does that feel, man? You're just like a few weeks away.
Pretty surreal. Yeah, the due date is 25 days, but who's counting? And I'm just steps away from his nursery, just around the corner. And pretty soon I'll be competing for airtime with a crying newborn. So
And
I can't wait.
and Victor's competing for airtime with his 3 kids. I saw one of them just pop into
Yeah, one of them
the
sneaking in, wants to be a big star.
Guest,
pop into the
guest
screen.
commentator.
But that's what makes it cool. We've seen the newscasts and kids popping in, and I mean it just, you'll hear my son in the background for sure, talking about like Ryan's toy review or something. So that's fine. But we're here to talk boxing. We're here to talk about the changes that have happened since we were last here. As you can see, some white hair here, some gray, salt and pepper. We're getting a little older, but we still look great, right? All of us look great. So
My
we're gonna
mom
get
tells me.
exactly. We're gonna get into the main course, right? And we're gonna talk about main course. We're gonna go straight to like filet mignon with all the works, right? Because we're talking about this man, Canelo Alvarez. I'm wearing the T-shirt, and a cool story about this T-shirt. So some years ago, I went with when I was working at Telemundo. I guess one of the big changes, I'm a real estate agent now. I'm no longer working in the TV business, right? But when I was at Telemundo, I went with one of our broadcasters, Edgar Lopez, to the Marlins Stadium. We were going to interview Jose Fernandez, the late Jose Fernandez, and Jose Fernandez had this T-shirt, but cut off. He had cut off the sleeves because he doesn't have puny arms like I do. He had some big strong arms. It was an all-star pitcher, and I saw it, and I'm like, dude, I gotta have that shirt. Where'd you get it? And he's like, oh, Under Armour makes it. I think it should be out. You should probably go to the website. So of course, as soon as I got home, I went to the website. I ordered it. So Jose Fernandez is to, I guess if you want to say blame or is responsible for me having this cool Canelo t-shirt. The late Jose Fernandez, he was fantastic. He was a big Canelo fan. And how could you not be a Canelo fan these days? And now I'll start with Victor, who was actually at the fight. I heard the event was amazing. From everybody that I've talked to that was at the event, I heard it was amazing. Um, Canelo comes out, injures BJ Saunders pretty badly. The guy has surgery the next day, emergency surgery, because he almost detaches his eye from his skull, and orbital bone fracture. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you sustain that like if you're like in a bad car wreck. That's how hard Canelo hit him. And then he's so confident about what he was gonna do that he goes out and gets married the week after. I mean, you gotta love it. The more time passes, the more I'm a Canelo fan. And Victor, tell me about the atmosphere. Tell me about the new Canelo, because he seems like the most laid back. He almost seems like Rocky in Rocky 3, except Canelo didn't get his ass beat by Clubber Lang.
Dude, he's just a changed man, and I think it's.
Oh, and by the way, we're gonna be eating on air because it is boxing during dinner.
I think just the separation from Golden Boy, from Oscar De La Hoya, from the way they were handling his career, he has some sense of freedom to himself that now he is his own boss, and those around him, he knows that he has their loyalty, and they've been with him since the start. Even from the publicist he hired, that I know really well, Jane, she was with him back in the old days. And it's just, it's a new Canelo Alvarez in the way that I had never seen him before. Much more relaxed, much more in control of what's being done, who he addresses, who he allows to be around him, and how he handles it. And just the crowd, the atmosphere in itself, 73,126. I can't remember the last time. None of us have been around that type of atmosphere because of the pandemic and everything that we've been enduring. So it was refreshing. It was welcoming. I enjoyed it. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to football season. I'm looking forward to the next fight. I can't wait to Delfimo Lopez here at Marlins Park in just a few weeks and what that may look like. Obviously, it won't be 73,000, but just it was just, dude, every hour they would announce, hey, we're at 53,000. We're at 60,000. We're near 70,000. And then they announced we've broken the record for indoor attendance for a boxing event, breaking Muhammad Ali's record against Leon Spinks and 73,000 at Cowboy Stadium. It was just impressive, man. It was just one of those events. You know, you and I, we've been to many fights. You've been to Vegas. You've been to Madison Square Garden. We've seen fights here. We've been fights all over this great nation. And it's just, it was crazy the moment that Canelo Alvarez raises his hands and calls for the crowd, something that he had planned. Now, when had you ever seen Canelo Alvarez do that in a fight? It goes to show you that's what we're speaking about. He's just a totally different fighter, much more in tune with who he is and in control of what he's doing, not just in the ring, but even outside the ring. And yeah, it takes a lot of balls to plan a wedding a week right after your fight with Billy Joe Saunders. Like, that is on a whole different type of, arrogant and confident atmosphere, because that was just incredible. And he played it perfectly because he had no blemishes. He looked perfectly fine, as if he hadn't gone 8 rounds with Billy Joe Saunders.
No, it's truly amazing, David. And Canelo, who's had huge victory after huge victory, and including the guy on your t-shirt, because I see wild card, but it's Miguel Cotto. But that was a good fight. Cotto hung in there and made the fight competitive. But yeah, like Victor was saying, David, Canelo just looks like a different man. He's a changed man. Who would have thought when I first interviewed Canelo, I remember he was like 18 years old or something like that, or maybe even younger. And my last name is Alvarez. And I told him, hey, Canelo, mi nombre es Armando Alvarez. Quizás somos primos. My name's Armando Alvarez. We're probably cousins. And he just
nodded, just
talking to the wall. Like Miguel Cotto would have given me the same look. Fast forward all these years later, he's walking to the ring with J Balvin. He's, doing how Victor is, calling out to the crowd. He's going off on Boo Boo Andre after the fight. I mean, that was hilarious. And it's his new Canelo, man. It's his new persona. Like, I feel like he has like this I can't lose attitude. I'm not gonna lose. I refuse to lose. And he's just going out there and taking care of business. And at the same time, he's marketing himself so well, because people that didn't care about Canelo when he fought Cotto, believe it or not, and even when he fought Mayweather, like, oh, who's this young kid? Now we're seeing Canelo, and they're like, oh, Canelo, Canelo, Canelo. Canelo is at the peak of his popularity right now.
Yep.
Yeah, this is an apex fighter, and I think we take for granted maybe when you say that every fighter has like their peak moment and then they come down from it and whatever, that's the logical progression. It is not a foregone conclusion.
I'm making a mess here, by the way.
It's all good. Next time someone else talks, I'm going to have my Quest peanut butter cups. Very nutritious. But I think we take for granted that fighters reach their apex, especially when they're on the greatest stage. And all you have to do is look at someone who some people, fewer, are arguing as at the top of his career right now in Terence Crawford, who is watching his golden years disappear in front of him. And
I thought you were going to say Edgar Berlanga.
Oh God, we'll talk about him another day.
That's a good dude, man. I know you guys have your thing against Edgar, man, but I met the dude and he's nothing like what we imagined. Cool dude, bro.
Mayweather built his persona on being unlikable too. I wouldn't put it past Berlanga to be doing the same thing. But
super likable dude,
David, man. And David and I were actually next to his crew like December 2019. Right. And they were actually really nice.
Yeah,
they all are.
They were talking to us the entire fight.
Yeah, it was a good group before anyone knew who he was. Fighting deep on a Terence Crawford undercard before there was anyone in Madison Square Garden. But anyways, we talk about this like it's a foregone conclusion, and it's not. Canelo Alvarez, if you looked at him 7-8 years ago, was a rough but solid counterpuncher with with an aggressive approach, who tired out and gassed out in mid rounds and theoretically could be outboxed. And you can argue that he was against Mayweather, against Lara, against, to maybe a smaller degree, Austin Trout. And
even Jacobs. Jacobs, he struggled in those mid rounds.
Correct. I think he convincingly lost the first fight against Triple G, right? You look at all of those things as somebody with a lot of question marks, and then to think a few years after the Triple G fight, you don't think that there's anyone between 160 and 175 who can touch this guy. And it's for all the reasons that Victor just mentioned. This guy has the thing that few fighters ever reach, and it's the confidence and the total belief in everything that he's doing. And you can see evidence of it from the time before a fight to the time that he's in the ring now, with raising his hands and flexing in front of his opponent after he busted his eye socket, to everything after, like planning a wedding 7 days later. So I think what we're watching is unique. I think at the same time, for him to sustain this is going to be a high order, not because I don't think Canelo is brilliant, but because few fighters run this hot for this long. So that's not me, being future critical, but it's just to say, acknowledge what's happening right now. This is a fighter, a special fighter at the absolute apex of his career. And it doesn't happen all the time. Terence Crawford, like I said, I don't think we're going to see that apex moment from him. I don't think we're going to see it from an Earl Spence, the guy who's supposed to, be the one on the other side. You don't see it often, and especially in this generation. And I think what we're watching is special.
And listen, Victor and I had a podcast for a few years, and every time we talk on the podcast, I was the one that was critical of Canelo, right? Because I felt like, after the Jacobs fight, he struggled when Jacobs would switch to southpaw. There was a few things to critique. Right now, I really can't critique anything about Canelo. Canelo goes up to 168 and just starts calling out champions. And dude, I don't get this whole argument that I'm seeing from some people of, oh, but his resume. What about his resume? His resume is fantastic. He fought.
And it's only getting better.
Floyd Mayweather when he was 22, 23 years old. That people told him, Canelo, don't fight Floyd Mayweather. He fought Floyd Mayweather. If you look at all his post-fight interviews, he's like, oh, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want Triple G. He was obviously with Golden Boy. I think Golden Boy, and now it's not only Golden Boy, it's most promoters. They have a plan for their fighters. So he was being held back little by little. Now that he's a free agent, he's like, hey, I'm going to 168 and I want this champion and that champion and that champion. He just wants to take on all comers. He took on Sergey Kovalev at 175. I didn't think he was gonna. Kovalev isn't what he used to be, but I was like, what's Canelo doing, going up to 175? He is fighting. Canelo's fighting on his own terms. He's doing what Mayweather basically did, except like he's just calling out like the top fighters and not giving a crap. And I think Eddie Hearn's done a good job, um, working these last few fights, giving Canelo the liberties to be Canelo, to be free. Who knows where he's gonna fight next? I mean, obviously Plant is with PBC, so it'll probably be on Fox, I'm guessing. But
but
yeah, he doesn't care. Like right now, he's just like, I mean, he's on a different level. And this isn't even just boxing. This is sports. He's an athlete who's at the peak of his career. He is, I mean, and I feel like I'm blowing smoke up Canelo, and I've never done this, but
we're getting close. We're getting close.
But what
he actually hasn't. So I'm loving all this newfound love for Canelo because I've been here. I've already, since the Miguel Cotto fight, I said I'll never forget being in the Las Vegas airport, that 6 a.m. flight, and just waiting for and look, man, I was born and raised here, so I've always gravitated towards the American fighter. I mean, Pernell Whitaker, Roy Jones, those are the guys that I grew up. Floyd Mayweather, that's who I admire. That's the type of boxing I enjoy. And you have to be blind to say that Canelo made that switch after the Mayweather fight. That was graduation. That was okay. I figured out what I need to do. And then the Cotto fight, he mastered it. To me, the moment he defeated Miguel Cotto, which I didn't think he would win that fight, I honestly, since that day, have felt that Canelo Alvarez is the best fighter in the game. And for a long time, I've been saying he's the best pound for pound. And I understand, like, look, certain people think pound for pound is if you were to erase all the weight classes and you put everybody even. I get that. To me, the epitome of pound for pound is what Canelo Alvarez has done. Super middleweight, super middleweight or light middleweight, and then goes all the way up to light heavyweight. Like this dude is 154, 160, 168, 175. That is a pound for pound champion. And then the way he's doing it, like he's knocking these guys out. And then in addition to that, now he's telling you, I'm going to knock him out and actually doing that. That's the Canelo Alvarez we weren't seeing.
He's doing what Roy did.
Yeah.
He's doing what Roy did.
And that right there, when you do what Roy Jones Jr. was doing, that's how I fall in love with you. And that's how I become a fan favorite. And then on top of that, just he's a really likable dude, man. Like Canelo is a really good person. And that's the issues he was having with Golden Boy. I have a great relationship with Golden Boy. I like those guys over there, but they're not Canelo Alvarez. There's some demons in that closet. There's a lot of things that go into the Golden Boy promotions, and there's a lot of different people running things. His biggest mistake, Oscar's biggest mistake, was siding with Eric Gomez. I know the history there. I know how tight they are, but your bread and butter is Canelo Alvarez. At some point, you need to tell Eric Gomez, hey, I understand there's some issues here. Promising the zone, a third trilogy with Triple G without Canelo knowing, that's another mistake. And those things just started to add up. So now you have a Canelo Alvarez who's free and he's making his own decisions. And on top of that, you have a promoter in Eddie Hearn who understands this and lets Canelo Alvarez be who he is. So it's a match made in heaven. They seem to get along. Canelo Alvarez just said it after the fight. I'm going to be doing business with Eddie Hearn for a really long time. At some capacity, he's still going to be involved. And it's just a very comfortable Canelo Alvarez in his own skin with everyone around him. And look, I think he's going to start living that villain type of role because now people are going to be starting to tune in, not necessarily because they didn't like him, but you're going to start tuning in to see him. Okay, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, get out of here, MFer. Get out of here, MFer. You're a nobody. You fought nobody. That's going to start rubbing some folks the wrong way. Not me. I love all that stuff. And then the fact that he's actually crossing over and speaking that English language and trying to become the global icon that you guys mentioned, that's going to draw some eyes, and it's going to draw some eyes in the negative way. And hey, Money Mayweather, nobody was watching Pretty Boy Floyd. We've all been boxing fans. No one cared about Pretty Boy Floyd, right? Even though Pretty Boy Floyd was dropping Chico Corrales when he was undefeated and doing the stuff he did to Arturo Gatti.
Angel Manfredi.
And then all of a sudden, the moment he turns into Money Mayweather, not everybody wants to watch. And I think that's where Canelo is hated or heading towards. Not necessarily hated the way Mayweather is, but he's heading towards that route where everybody wants to tune in just to see what if can someone do what no one else has been able to do.
it's good for business, and I hope it does happen. Not for the sake of any negative gas towards him. There are reasons to have that, with the steroid issues in the past, which are by all accounts are in the past. But I do think that just in general, having a heel character to play off of is good for business, and that's why Jake Paul, for better or worse, just cleared the 10th highest pay-per-view in the history of boxing, which is, or not the history of boxing rather, but in the past, I want to say in the past decade. Which I don't intend to talk about Jake Paul any more than I just did the rest of this episode, but I digress.
No, and that's why, we grew up, or at least I guess I'm giving away my age, right? I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan was the All-American. I'm a real American, but at some point, for Hulk to further his career and remain relevant, he was Mr. NWO, coming out, strumming the guitar, coming out with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. So you had so Canelo right now is NWO, NWO Hulk Hogan, right? And a little bit Roy Jones. But I say if he comes out with a rap record, with a rap album, saying y'all must have forgot.
Oh, and but it would sound like this. It'd be like, y'all must have forgot.
And then a diss track to Demetrius Andrade, that'd be dope. But we got a lot to talk about, man. We could go like 3 hours talking about Canelo. But this weekend, I mean, I'm beyond excited for this fight coming up. I've already earlier today I extended an invitation to David. I'm gonna extend it to Victor. If both of you are available this Saturday, come on over to my house. Watch this fight, because I am so excited for Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. What a fight. I mean, these two guys going at it. They have all the belts at 140. Jose Ramirez, going back to my TV career when I was at Telemundo, Jesse Lozada and I went to Avenal, California to interview this young kid with acne on his face from Avenal, California, with some really nice parents, a really nice brother and sister, like just a good kid, like excellent kid. And he goes to the Olympics. I thought he won his fight that he lost, but whatever. He's kicking ass as a pro, and that's all that matters. Yep. And Jose Ramirez has defied the odds. I think a lot of people didn't expect him to be where he's at right now. One of my favorite finishes of the last, I don't know how many years, was his fight with Maurice Hooker, when he just got him on the ropes, and he just, I mean, it was like out of nowhere. He just went, da, 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 da. And Hooker's head is like Yuri Boy Campos against Tito Trinidad. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like jumping up and down. I couldn't believe it. But Josh Taylor, the best fighter at 140, he beat Regis Prograis in what was an excellent fight. And Ramirez has his work cut out for him, but never bet against the kid, David. Never bet against the kid. I'll say my prediction for later, but I'm just saying, don't bet against Jose Ramirez, because so far he's made everybody look bad.
Yeah, well, I will bet against him in this case, and not because I don't like him, but because I think I've seen the way to beat Jose Ramirez, and I'm pretty sure that Victor Postal showed that, and I think by a lot of accounts, I'm not saying Victor Postal deserved to win that fight, but at least there was an argument that wasn't crazy to say that he did. Jose Ramirez has exceeded, I think, all of the expectations of him as a professional. And that's not to downplay, anything, to say that he exceeded expectations. In fact, I think that's a huge compliment to him when you look at somebody like a Jojo Diaz, for example, who I think potentially should have had a higher ceiling and has struggled with weight and in some other disciplines, which, I won't necessarily get into that. I'm a huge Jojo Diaz fan as well, but those guys came at the same time, and the expectations for Ramirez were, at least, according to many, a little bit lower. So he's gotten every ounce out of his talent. With that said, I do think Josh Taylor's special. I'm not saying that he's, top 10 pound for pound, but perhaps he is. I think he's maybe in the lower tier of it. I just don't think Jose Ramirez has that skill set, and I believe that Josh Taylor is the type of fighter who's going to show up on the stage that he needs to, and I think he has the range to give Ramirez problems. With that said, to your point, never count Jose Ramirez out, right? And I am willing to eat crow, because I know that Jose Ramirez has an instinct that few fighters do. You just called it out. The Maurice Hooker example was just a violent, beautiful display of savagery that showed the attitude of a guy who was not going to take no for an answer. And with the stakes this high, you're going to see the best Jose Ramirez. And for that reason, I think this is a can't miss fight. Personally, I think that has somehow fallen under the radar as a can't miss type of attraction, which really surprises me. But nevertheless, if you're a hardcore boxing fan, and even if you're not, this is a fight that will not disappoint. If you have a friend who's an MMA guy and says, "Oh, the best never fight the best," and all the belts or whatever, introduce them on Saturday night to Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. They will not be disappointed.
And I was going to say my prediction. I think Jose Ramirez is going to win. Ramirez is going to win. Taylor is like the one that you're like, logic tells you Taylor should outbox him for the reasons David said. But man, I just think Ramirez has like this like not going to quit attitude. And I just think the kid has become really special. And I think he's going to win the fight, Victor.
Look, I'm with you. I am tired of betting against Ramirez, and I've done so one too many times for my liking. And then, I'm big on the crossing the pond. I'm huge on that. And the fact that Taylor hasn't fought here since 2017, only 3 fights in the States, I think that will play a part in it. Look, we just saw it with Billy Joe Saunders. Then again, it isn't 73,000. I understand you're not walking out to that crowd, but I'm a big believer in when the lights get bright under Las Vegas, that takes some part in it. And I like Taylor, but I'm done betting against Ramirez. Ramirez, every time I thought he's out, he comes back and he proves me wrong. I think he's got the resume under his belt. I'm more impressed with his resume than I am with Taylor's. And he's just relentless, man. He's one of these Mexicans who gives it all in every fight. And that is intriguing to me. And look,
and he's a good guy. Like, he fights for the
super
right
good
reasons. Like
what he's doing in California, what he's done with the pandemic, with the COVID, with the vaccines, dude, that is, you can't make that stuff up. Like, this guy is a really good dude. I don't like the fact that he's going to conquer something that Canelo's trying to do, and he's going to do it before he does. The unifying the world, that whole division, the 140. I would like to see Canelo be the first Mexican to do that, have all 4 titles in one division. But if there's anyone else that should beat Canelo to it, it's Jose Ramirez. Like, I'm telling you, the guy is just a good human being. I've met him numerous times when he's come over to Telemundo as well. And just a good dude, man. I really don't see, I could see how he loses this fight, because I don't want to dismiss Taylor either. But this guy finds a way to win. And I'm not just talking about one time. It's like, he finds ways to win in every single fight. And again, as I started, like, I'm just done betting against him.
So let me poke holes in that a little bit, because I by the way, I totally can understand why you guys would pick Jose Ramirez, because I've felt the same way on several occasions. And like I said, prepared to eat crow once again if it goes the wrong way. My reason for picking Josh Taylor in this fight really does come down to Jose Ramirez versus Victor Postal. And I think that there's evidence. You're right. Jose Ramirez is relentless in a fight where he can engage, but he was not given the opportunity to engage in a fight with Victor Postal. And you saw at times that he became distracted, or at least appeared to be distracted or befuddled, and sort of got out of his own rhythm. What do you think that you've seen, maybe even in the second half of that fight, that gives you the confidence that he's going to overcome somebody who, in theory, is a superior boxer to the one he just arguably drew with or lost to?
Victor?
I look, having spoken to him recently, and then just his corner. You can't dismiss who he brings in his corner, and that whole stable. Having spoken to Mikey Garcia a couple of weeks back, and even picking his brain about it. Again, it's just I'm done betting against him, because I've done that so many times and been wrong, that he's proven to me that he is the king at 140. And I think he's ready to take that step. I think he's going to unify that division. And it's just, maybe I bought into it. Maybe I'm gullible. Maybe I bought into what Mikey Garcia fed me. Maybe I bought into what Robert Garcia has been saying. And then just having been around the guy and spoken to him, maybe I did eat it all up, and I'm not looking at it how maybe I should, but I think Ramirez takes this fight. I'm not saying he's gonna easily win this fight, but I do think he's the better 140 pounder.
Yeah,
if one of these guys wins this fight easily, sorry to cut you off, if one of these guys wins this fight easily, then I can't wait to hope that Top Rank still has Terrence Crawford and can put him in with him. But I'll let Armando take it from there.
No, I was gonna say, like, Victor was saying that maybe he bought into it. Maybe I like the kid too damn much. Maybe I like his family too damn much.
Yeah, I look guilty, man. Guilty.
But I think he has the right corner, like Victor said. I think he's a smart kid. I think he's gonna make the proper adjustments. I think the Victor Posto fight was a fight that needed to happen because he was used to fighting these scrappy guys that were gonna come at him. The Hooker fight was a shootout. I mean, it was an absolute shootout. They were going back and forth the entire fight. And then Victor Posto comes, and he could be the most boring fighter in the world, but he's gonna do what Victor Posto does, right? And he fought his fight. I think Ramirez learned from this. I think there's also a lot to learn from what Regis Prograis was able to and not able to do against Josh Taylor. And I think Ramirez, being a smart kid and a student of the game, could learn a lot from that fight as well, to poke holes into Josh Taylor. So I mean, it's a 50-50 fight, to be honest. I mean, Josh Taylor is an amazing fighter, and like I said, like, logic should tell you that Taylor would win by decision. I just think that Jose Ramirez is going to make the right adjustments, and he's going to pull this out. How, I don't know. It might be, a close decision, or it might be, a surprising late round TKO out of nowhere, like he did against Maurice Hooker. That, like David said, it was violent, with a capital V. I mean, it was really violent. And speaking of violent guys, because we need to talk about the heavyweight division, and we'll get to that really quick because we're gonna bring a really cool guest that you don't want to miss to talk about this, who's right now, as we speak, is like knee deep into this whole thing going on with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And we're going to talk about all that because the heavyweight division just got a whole lot more complicated today. We're doing this on Monday. So today, on Monday, it just became a lot more complicated. But speaking of violent and crazy, this past weekend, if you go like to your local high school, right? I don't know, Christopher Columbus High School, Coral Park, whatever, you pick out the prettiest boy, like from Belen, from LaSalle, like clean cut, like,
we're a bunch of Miami guys, for those of you watching elsewhere.
Right. No stubble, like David has the shadow. I have my beard. Victor has his beard. None of that. Just clean cut, light eyes, pretty boy, like the heartbreaker, right? Because that's what his nickname is.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think that this kid, Brandon Figueroa, is one of the most vicious, nonstop, like, I mean, dude, nonstop offense. He's so damn good because I think he lures you into the fight, like, by I can beat this kid. He's the pretty boy. He's the prom king, and he's like a Ryan Garcia, right? Oh, like the pretty boy. And dude, like, the pretty boy just whooped Luis Neri's ass. Like, he just whooped Neri's ass. Like, he traded with Neri. It was we were talking about a back and forth shootout. It was a shootout, and then he unleashes like the body shot from hell on Luis Neri. Well, then I'm texting David the next morning, like at 7 something in the morning, that Luis Neri's like, pale, going to the hospital, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? So Brandon Figueroa just, like Canelo's making a fan out of me. Brandon Figueroa is a kid that I was like, oh, maybe I'm a little lukewarm on him. After Saturday, dude, the kid's vicious. He's the real deal.
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's funny because there's some fighters, everybody has an opinion about a fighter regardless, and we don't always necessarily choose, how or why we feel that way. It comes. And I think, some people will hate a guy for being the pretty boy, and you're right, he's gorgeous. I mean, let's just look at the guy, right? but I personally was always kind of like a hater of him because of his style. And after Saturday, I can tell you I still hate his style. I think he doesn't use his range very well. I don't think he's, got particularly powerful punches even after the body shot knockout. With that said, you don't have to want Brandon Figueroa to be Pernell Whitaker to appreciate what he is. He is full speed. He has a gas tank that apparently is on like an electric battery that's perpetually plugged in. This guy never runs out of gas, never slows down, always finds a way to impose his will. And you're right. I think he does kind of lull you into thinking he's not particularly fast. He's not necessarily a big puncher. His style leaves a lot to be desired. He leaves his head hanging out over the front of his feet. There are a lot of deficiencies in this kid, and yet and still, he just bulldozed somebody who some people were saying was going to beat Monster Inoue just within the past year. And he took him out in 7 rounds on a body shot that guy, you're right, was still black and blue from at the lips the following morning. So I think Brandon Figueroa's, for better or worse, got a short shelf life. But nevertheless, there's no one around 122 pounds that you can say that guy doesn't have a shot with, including Stephen Fulton, who I do think should reasonably be a favorite over him. But there's nothing in Brandon Figueroa that says quit. The same way we were just describing a lot of the Jose Ramirez stuff. Brandon Figueroa, I really think, is completely oblivious to his own shortcomings, and that makes for a really dangerous fighter. And Luis Neri learned that the hard way.
I totally agree with David. I think he's similar to that Ryan Garcia type, where things can get complicated at times. Like we saw Saturday, they weren't necessarily going in his favor, but at any given moment, he has that pop, that boom, it's lights out, and just flips the fight around just like that. There are some stuff he needs to work on, but granted, that'll come with more experience and the more his career takes on. Just same exact way with Ryan Garcia. There's some deficiencies there. There are some things that he needs to correct. But when you possess that power and you could eliminate someone within a round and just turn it around in that way, you're always going to have a shot. And then you just got to work at that and get a little better at what you don't do so well. I like him. And again, the comparisons to Ryan Garcia, to CANELO Alvarez, like these good looking guys that can actually get it done with inside the ring, has star power written all over him. And if he continues to climb up, because honestly, 122, that's not going to make you that much money or even bring you that much attention. But if he continues to climb up and keeps those looks and gets better competition under his belt and then perfects his game, who knows where he can go.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was watching the entire card, which was a great card, by the way. It was fantastic card. It was
one of the Telemundo guys love Hindu Espinosa, man. Like that kid comes to fight every single time.
Well, what's funny is that excuse me, my wife isn't a huge boxing fan, but she likes a pretty boy. She likes Ryan Garcia. She liked Brandon Figueroa the other day. But now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty, right? We're gonna get into excuse me, into the nastiness that's going on today, because right now is the dessert portion of boxing during dinner, the dessert portion. And I'm not, and it's after we ate filet mignon and potatoes and all that, like now, and or the best dinners at Randazzo that David and I used to have, right? Oh. Now we get into really good dessert, right? Like creme brulee or ice cream filled with, caramel and all that stuff, because
why not a flan, bro? Why can't we just have a regular flan de leche?
Or a flan? That's fine too, because we have a very special guest on with us right now on Boxing During Dinner. He's a good friend of mine, good friend of ours, Mike Coppinger from The Athletic. And I've known Mike, a long time. I love that Mike has become the Adam Schefter or the Woj of boxing. Anytime Mike write something or tweet something, I'm like, okay, that's legit. I'm running with it. If it's somebody else, and I won't name names, I don't buy it. But Mike, welcome to Boxing During Dinner, Mike.
Hey, I just want to say, first off, I am deeply disappointed. I was promised Randazzo's, and I've been hearing about this infamous Randazzo spot in Miami, Italian spot, for, I don't know, 5-10 years now. And then I finally get the Boxing During Dinner call, and it's over Zoom. There's no food or anything, but
you're not. If you do a really good job today, we're going to promise you dinner in the next couple of weeks. It's going to happen.
Oh, man, I'm ready. But thanks for having me, guys. And Armando, I wish you would have named names, but also I need one of those CANELO shirts you're wearing. That's an awesome shirt. I need it. Yeah. Is that a custom job? What is the deal here?
It's an Under Armour shirt, and I was telling the story earlier, but I'll retell it. Jose Fernandez, the late Marlins pitcher, was wearing it one day. We went before a game to interview him, and the shirt was really cool. So I'm like, Jose, where'd you get it? He's like, Under Armour. So I had to order it as soon as I got home.
Man, one of my favorite boxing shirts. I have this shirt it's basically Gennady Golovkin, but he looks like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, and he has blood splattered all over his face. And unfortunately,
Boxing on Instagram, those guys I think designed that at All In Boxing.
Really?
Yeah, I think they did.
All right, I got to check them out because I need to find it and reorder the shirt because I had a laundry mishap and blues. The blues stuff bled into it. Shirt is ruined now. You can't be walking around with a white shirt that's partially blue, and
no, it's bad news.
I can't pull off tie dye anyway. So,
but we're gonna have a good laundry segment on this show one of these days. But we're starting at the beginning again, so we'll pick that up weeks from now.
But
could be boxing during laundry.
It's not a bad idea.
During laundry. I'll be folding some clothes. But did Gennady Golovkin kill Paul Allen? That's what I want to know.
Nice one, yeah.
But Mike, we're gonna talk about the heavyweight division because and for those watching this on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, recording this on a Monday, all hell broke loose a few hours ago. This whole thing with Deontay Wilder, and the hearing for the rematch. For those that don't know, and if you don't know, now you know, right? Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury basically had a fight set for August, and in comes Deontay Wilder and his team. They say they have the rights to the fight, but I'll turn to Mike, who has been on this for the past few hours. What is going on, I guess, in layman's terms, and what's going to come of this? Because as boxing fans, we just want to see the best fight at heavyweight, whether it's Joshua Fury, and it is Joshua Fury, but we might get Wilder Fury again. What's going on?
Well, it's funny because, right, Eddie Hearn, MTK, Top Rank, Frank Warren, they've all been talking for months and months now about finalizing Fury, Joshua, and they knew that this arbitration was playing out in the background. This wasn't a surprise today. Like, I think I reported maybe last Tuesday or Wednesday that the arbitration ruling was probably coming Monday, aka today, or Monday for those who are watching later on. And I think maybe they thought the ruling would go their way, but certainly this wasn't an unforeseen result here. So I don't think it's not necessarily going to stop Fury Joshua. It's just another hurdle to clear. And this is boxing, right? There's always more hurdles. Nothing's ever done until they're in the ring. When I saw Fury in Dallas, I said to him, when are you going to believe the fight is done? When you have a contract signed? He said, no, when I'm in the ring. So we all know that, to put it in layman's terms now, basically Fury, Wilder, they signed a 2-fight deal after the initial fight. So the first fight was in December of 2018. There was no rematch clause there. So this is a whole new series of fights. They signed the 2-fight deal in 2019. They had the fight in February 2020. Fury, of course, beats the hell out of Wilder, stops him in, I believe, the 7th rounds. And Wilder had 30 days to exercise the rematch clause. He does so. And the contract stated that the fight needed to take place within 90 days of that. So I think that was something like July 15th, right? Because the fight was in February. They had 30 days. That's another 90. That's middle of July. And then the contract also said that if one of the fighters sustained an injury, which Wilder did, Wilder messed up his arm in the fight, that they could delay the fight another 90 days. So that pushed it to October. So the fight was Fury Wilder 3 was set for October. Then pandemic restrictions, they couldn't have enough fans. They lost many on the second fight. They say, all right. They say, hey, look, Tyson, are you okay with the fight being, I think it was December 19th. Fury says, no problem. I'll do it December 19th. Then all of a sudden, college football season pushes through, and Fox and ESPN, which were supposed to collaborate on the pay-per-view a second time, they say, hey, look, we have SEC championship, all these championship bowl season on that Saturday. We need to push this fight to January or February. Fury says, nope, I already delayed it twice. I'm not delaying it a third time. I'm moving on. And he was arguing that the rematch clause actually expired. That then the other side was arguing and saying, hey, look, you already agreed to delay it once, so you were agreeing to delay it in perpetuity. So that's what they've been arguing over. They've been depositions over the past few months. Todd DeBuff, Bob Arum, Fury, Wilder at Daniel Weinstein's house in Napa Valley. He's a former judge. And Weinstein actually may be familiar to boxing fans, and I'm talking hardcore boxing fans, because he's been an arbitrator a lot of times in the past. He was the arbitrator in the Manny Pacquiao situation when Pacquiao took the bag of money from Oscar De La Hoya in the limo.
That's right.
He had a part in the Mayweather Pacquiao fight. But long story short, what's going to have to happen now is, look, they had I think it's $150 million plus site fee from Saudi for Fury Joshua August 14th. They can take some of that money and say, hey, look, Deontay, here's a bunch of money. We'll guarantee you a shot after we fight once, and then we'll have our second fight. That to me is the most practical scenario, yes. Right? Because if you're Deontay Wilder, you just took a beating. You haven't fought in over a year. Get a fight in. There have been talks about Wilder fighting Charles Martin in July. Do that fight, maybe make some money there, make a boatload of money on a step aside, and then get the fight. What do you think happens though? Because it's going to be up to Wilder now. Wilder's going to hold everything in his hands, which is crazy, right? Fury and Joshua, and now Deontay Wilder sitting here potentially holding the fight up.
I know. That's fascinating. Armando, I'll let you, I've got some thoughts on it, but I want to hear yours.
No, I mean, my thoughts are that I want to see Joshua and Fury now. I mean, I think it's the biggest fight in the heavyweight division. It's the biggest
I would say in boxing.
Right. It's the biggest fight in boxing. And
absolutely.
And man, like we've seen the Brits like pack Wembley Stadium for way lesser fights. I mean, I know it's not gonna be in Britain, but you're gonna have some traveling. You have a ton of money in Saudi Arabia for this fight. All of Great Britain is gonna be paralyzed that day for that fight. They're not gonna be doing anything. They're gonna be watching that fight. And like Mike said, Wilder hasn't fought since that beating he took, because it was a beating. You can only fight Luis Ortiz so many times. So he's gonna fight Charles Martin. That's fine. But it's so logical. It's almost like, I know Wilder wants to fight, and now he's posting the videos of the new Deontay Wilder without his former trainers, who apparently went all Tony Montana on Manolo. So for Scarface reference, but had to get that in. We're Miami, but yeah, he wants to fight. I know, but the smartest thing to do is what Mike is saying: take some step aside money, fight Charles Martin, beat him, he'll probably knock him out, and then he'll fight the winner. David, I don't know what you think, but I mean, to me, it doesn't take any thinking. It's too
no-brainer. If you're Deontay Wilder, no-brainer. You take your step aside money, you're getting paid. You fight someone else, you get paid. Then you wait for all 4 belts in the meantime, because someone's going to win them in theory, unless there's a draw. And now all of a sudden you've shown the general public again that you're still Deontay Wilder, which I'm with you. I think he's going to put Charles Martin to sleep pretty quickly. People will be reminded of that fearsome power, and you're only as good as your last fight. The memory that the public has right now is of him getting put on his ass repeatedly and looking like a drunk against Tyson Fury. He gets a win against a former title belt holder. I can't believe that he is, and then fights for all 4, and then fights for all 4 belts. I mean, I think Deontay Wilder is in a can't miss situation in that regard, because even in loss to either Joshua or Fury in the eventual all 4 belt showdown, he's going to make a lot more money for that fight than he would if he just exercised a rematch clause with Tyson Fury today, and he's guaranteed that fight regardless. So I think it's I think it would be foolish for him to to exercise it right now. And I think it's good for the heavyweight division to have a 4 belt unification in the meantime. Momentum means a lot in this sport, and we've seen a lot of evidence of that.
Victor?
I think it is the smart thing to do, to step aside, but I think Tyson Fury took a lot more out of Deontay Wilder than just handing him that loss and making him look silly. I think Deontay Wilder's in a position right now where it's not just physically he was hurt. I think his ego has been hurt, and I don't think he's going away quietly. I think he's going, and Mike would know more than anyone here, but I think he's going to make this extremely frustrating for Eddie Hearn, for Tyson Fury, for Top Rank, for Matchroom, for Anthony Joshua, for everyone involved, because it's his ego that has been hurt. He's no longer the talk. For years, he said, I'm the biggest name. I'm the heavyweight division comes through me, through the United States. And that's not necessarily, he's been pushed aside. I mean, he's not even being looked at by the Andy Ruiz of the world. He's not being looked at by some of the heavyweights that we would like to see. Maybe even Frank Sanchez or a third fight with Luis Ortiz. Not necessarily that we need to see that, But I think Deontay Wilder is an afterthought in the heavyweight division right now because we're only talking about 2 names. I know it's a loaded division. There's a lot of names that we should speak about, us as hardcore boxing fans. We do. The general public doesn't necessarily do that. And I think Deontay Wilder is hurt in a lot more ways than just being physically hurt by that knockout he suffered. I think his ego and obviously the way he handled his corner and the way he's been handling those relationships, I don't think he goes away quietly. I hope he does. It makes all the sense in the world because, as David pointed out, there's paydays that he's just going to collect from numerous situations. But I don't see this going away quietly. As much as I would like to, I think Deontay Wilder is that child who's a sore loser, who's got lost and wants to take his ball home and have it his way.
Yeah, once you take the ball home, you ruin the game unless you have like more balls.
And that's what he's doing. He's ruining it for all over.
And Mike, I mean, what do you eventually think will happen? I mean, Victor just had a very good point. Wilder may just stretch this out as long as he can, even if he takes a step aside money, because we all know this. My brother's an attorney. I know a lot of attorneys, and you could just stretch that as long as you possibly can.
I mean, knowing my luck covering this stuff, I'm sure he will stretch it out as long as possible and make it agony, not just for Eddie Hearn and everyone else, but for me as well. But look, I think you're right. I think this could definitely drag out for a while. And I would not be surprised if Wilder just said, you know what, I want my shot now. Because like Victor said, his psyche and his ego are bruised more than anything else, perhaps. I think and Wilder does strike me as the kind of guy that doesn't really go along with maybe conventional wisdom. I think you might say, you know what, I want my shot right now. So who knows what happens. I would obviously rather see Fury Joshua first. The one thing I want to know is why we all knew this might happen. They could have put together Fury Wilder 3 in February or March while we were delaying and getting this Fury Joshua fight done because of the pandemic. That would have cleared this all up. And I said it numerous times to people involved, and there was never really a good reason as to why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and it unfortunately didn't happen, and now it's created this mess. But hopefully we'll sort it all out. But I wanted to touch some other topics with Mike really quick. I know he has to go and continue working the story, but one, you just appeared on Telemundo. How good or bad of a producer is Victor Ramirez?
Wow. I'll hang up and listen, guys.
Oh, I gotta go.
Well, you know what? I can't answer for sure because Victor wasn't in my ear, but he was great. It was a lot of fun being on Telemundo. I gotta get my Spanish set up here soon. 8 years of Spanish. I mean, my Spanish teachers would be so disappointed if they saw me. I can't even remember their names, unfortunately, anymore because, no offense, but Spanish was always that class that no one wanted to take. And the Spanish teachers always kind of had a chip on their shoulder. They always had a chip on their shoulder because they know better.
Man, and if you would have said Victor was a bad producer, then that means I'm a terrible producer because Victor learned from me. So
wow, so Victor knows everything you know, but not knows everything Victor knows you taught him, but not everything you know, right? Did I say that right?
Something like that.
And I'm blameless. I've never produced anything in my day in my life. So.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And then we're all from we're all living in Miami. Mike, last I talked to you, you're planning on living here in Miami. So Miami has a couple of interesting fights coming up now. We have Floyd Mayweather against Logan Paul.
Let's say interesting events. How about
that? Events, right?
That's
an
a fair
interesting
word.
event in Mayweather Logan Paul. And then we have Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos, which I think should be a fun fight because Kambosos is a tough guy. But going back to the Mayweather Paul fight, what's worse, the fight that's taking place, or that Floyd Mayweather hasn't shaved his head and he's keeping that hairdo?
Well, I don't. We're talking about the hairdo on his head or the hairdo on his face, because
or both.
I'm not sure what's going on with either one of those things. Floyd's looking. Look, take it from me, a bald guy. You can't try to bring it back. Yeah, see, he knows. You have two choices when you go bald. Either you fight it or you embrace it. And
I think I'm gonna be there soon enough.
As my grandfather
Starting
once
back
told
here.
me, going bald is not a choice. Being bald is. So
that's true. That's wise words
yeah,
from Grandpa Barry.
from
But
an bald
No,
guy.
but
too.
Mike, but seriously, what do you think about this event? Because to me, it kind of came out of left field, right? I mean, I know everybody's in it for the money now. You know, with Triller putting on the celebrity event, I guess it was inevitable. I mean, Floyd Mayweather's probably one, if not the smartest boxer in the history of boxing when it comes to making money. He capitalized on this. That whole gotcha hat thing, I call BS. It was all planned. Even though like this guy took a couple licks, Mayweather's a smart dude. He was doing an interview with Barstool right after that, and he was all smiles. I mean, it was like if nothing ever happened. And he knows how to. He took the juice from CANELO Saunders midweek. He was the talk of the town again, and all of a sudden now he created buzz for a fight that I don't know. Seriously, I don't know who would want to watch it. Except I'm a sick boxing fan, and I'm a Floyd Mayweather fan, and I want to see him fight. And yeah, I'll definitely watch it, and I want to watch Badou Jack and Jean Pascal. But
Yeah.
what do you think of this whole event? I mean, it's just a little. It's not a little. It's a lot of crazy. Is what it is.
well, first off, I would say I was in Dallas for Canelo Saunders, and when all that broke out, I was thinking, not again. Like Floyd really found a way to do it again and steal the spotlight and throw it squarely on himself. He is the best at that. If they have pound for pound rankings for stealing spotlight, I mean, it's crazy. This guy's on another level. But look, Mayweather Paul, us boxing fans, we don't like it. We're not gonna like it. It's not a real fight. It's WWE. But I have too many people to count saying to me, "Oh, what if Logan Paul lands a big shot? He's a big guy." And I'm thinking, "Oh, here we are." Because I've heard that from, I don't know, 25, 30 people over the past few weeks. People who don't watch boxing. There's definitely a lot of fanfare, a lot of mainstream worldwide attention now. And I know it's going to.
We're old enough to remember when they thought McGregor was going to beat Mayweather, right?
Old enough to, yeah.
Mayweather McGregor. I mean, look, at least Mayweather McGregor was a sanctioned fight, A, and B was against the best fighter in MMA.
Correct.
Logan Paul isn't even the best fighter in his own family. So
Didn't he lose to KSI a couple times?
Lost to KSI.
Yeah.
I will say, I want to give Logan Paul some credit. He sells the hell out of a stunner. He sold the hell out of that Stone Cold Stunner at WrestleMania from Kevin Owens. Not easy.
And Mike was there. Mike was there, and he had.
I was there. I was there at WrestleMania, and I even said to Logan, I said, "Man, impressive," because I think the best guy at selling the stunner was The Rock. So, props to him there. And look, he probably knows how to sell a shot too against Floyd Mayweather. I'm just not sure how real those shots are going to be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will be real shots, but this isn't an sanctioned fight for a reason. But look, it's funny, right? We're going to see the juxtaposition because we're going to have that fight on June 6th in Miami, and then we're going to have 2 weeks later a real fight in Teofimo Lopez, one of the 5 best fighters in the world, regardless of weight, against George Kambosos. Kambosos is actually training in Miami right now in Davie, and I agree with you, Armando. He's not he's not an elite fighter like Teofimo, but he has a great hard-nosed style. He's very tough, and he's confident and in shape. I think he's going to come in and give a good account of himself and make it a fun fight.
What I'm most interested to see in that Teofimo Lopez fight is how he handles success. If you know Teofimo and you follow him closely, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot going on within camp, within the family, and it seems like it's been a lot of success too fast. And I'm not saying Teofimo can't handle that success. I'm more worried about the corner. Can his corner handle the success he's had and everything that comes with it? Because if you're taking George lightly, I'm telling you, I've been in Davie, I've been in Sweatbox, I've seen George put in the work. He's treating this like, hey, I'm not just showing up. I'm not just your mandatory. I'm coming to take all your belts. I hope Teofimo isn't taking him lightly and is treating this just as much as serious as he treated the Lomachenko fight. Because if you're letting the success get to your head and your corner's in your ear, and I'm speaking specifically about the father and how he's handled the rise to the top. I'm not necessarily worried about how Teofimo handles it. I'm worried about everything going on around Teofimo. And I don't think George is the one to take lightly.
And David, and George Kambosos, he has literally nothing to lose in this fight. Nothing to lose, right? If he loses, he was expected to lose, right? But he has, he again going back to when we were talking about Jose Ramirez and how much I like him, right? I like the people around Kambosos a lot. We're friends with his manager, Peter Khan, and then you have Javier Centeno, who's been his trainer. He is his trainer. He's preparing him for this fight. I think Javier is one of the up and coming best trainers in boxing. He has Kambosos, he has Xander Sayas, and he's a hard worker, student of the game. We've known Javier for I want to say I've known him for 20 years, and we talked so much boxing, and the guy knows what he's doing. He's gonna have Kambosos ready for this fight.
Yeah, and
you guys must really be old, because I don't think I've owned anybody for 20 years.
I was saying, I haven't known Javier that long. I've known Javier long enough to be in his amateur boxing program when he didn't have a star in his gym. And so I've seen firsthand, and thank God I never tried to take boxing that seriously, because it would have been a poor career choice. But I agree. There's not a fighter in Javier Centeno's gym who is not premium in terms of preparation, discipline, and skill. Now, whether or not the God-given talent is on par for Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez is a different question. I think it would be hard to argue that Kambosos has the same natural God-gifted ability that Lopez does. With that said, I agree 100% with what Victor said. This is not the guy that you have questions about, and maybe coming in with a half-hearted effort. Kambosos is a real fighter. He's got, like we were talking about Brandon Figueroa earlier, this guy is oblivious to his own ability to lose. He believes supremely in himself, and there's a lot to be said about belief in a fighter. I'm very interested to see how Lopez fares when you beat a fighter like Vasily Lomachenko, who was at the apex of his career going into that by the accounts of most people. And now all of a sudden you've reached this peak maybe prematurely before you expected to. And there's no one else in the division that is within his realm of being fought anytime soon who is going to supersede what it was like to beat Lomachenko. How do you get up the next time for somebody who's trying to come take this thing that you reached at the peak of your career so early? I don't think Lopez has ever proven not to be a disciplined fighter. So let me be careful to say that I'm not critiquing him in that regard. But if he is anything less than fully prepared, Kambosos is going to check him very early and often. And I think for as long as that lasts, the early rounds of that fight could be instant classic types of rounds. I do expect Lopez to figure him out over time. Sorry, Peter Khan. And to Javier as well. But if for whatever reason Lopez is not fully prepared, this is a much different fight.
Man, this is hard for you guys because Javier and Peter Khan. Teofimo Lopez is from Miami, so I can tell you guys don't know what to do here. But I will say, Dave, I don't agree with your point that there aren't fighters at 135 that could match Lomachenko. I mean, we're talking about one of the most star-studded divisions in boxing. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. You have obviously Gervonta Tank Davis. Even Shakur Stevenson is going to be at 135 soon. So I think he is going to be on top of his game. And I will say that when I was in Atlanta for the Jake Paul fight, I went to the gym for some reason because I was probably procrastinating at 1 a.m. and there was one person there, and it was Teofimo Lopez. Wow. And he was actually there with his nutritionist. And he's already shredded back then, even a month ago. He's in great shape. I do think he's taking it seriously. And other point, before Armando, you mentioned that you like Jose Ramirez a lot. Please tell me you're not picking him over Josh Taylor.
We did.
Hold on.
Who's we?
Clarify who the we is.
Guilty.
Victor and Armando.
Do I smell a bet? Do I smell a bet coming?
You and me are on the Josh Taylor train. I think there's something to be said for why.
It might be dinner at this Randazzo's place if it exists. That might be the bet.
What do you think?
Let's do it.
We're here for this.
All right, so hold on.
We're gonna do it anyway. So
fair enough.
Mike, you brought something up that I wanted to touch with you because I spoke to George last Monday, and the Atlanta situation came up, and I know you were there. You were working with Triller. George, and I'm not. Look, Teofimo has all the skill sets to just destroy George and take him out when he wants. I totally believe that. I'm not worried about Teofimo, as I've already stated. I'm worried about those around him. And I've heard Teofimo's mother was picking fights with George. The father was having to apologize. And then he had to step in and be like, hey, I'm sorry. And George is like, I have children on my own. I would never disrespect you guys. There seems to be a civil war within Teofimo's camp. And that's what worries me. I don't know how long that can continue. And granted, I've seen Teofimo Lopez, 5 out of the 16 pro fights have been on Boxeo Telemundo. I've been able to produce those fights. I know what Teofimo brings to the table, but how long can that last? I don't think he's on the skill set of Floyd Mayweather, where you can go deal with your father being shot and going away to jail, and then having to deal with Roger Mayweather's issues outside of the ring, or you know. I'm worried about Teofimo and the camp and what's around him. That's what worries me, and that's what I'm, you know, a little hesitant going into that fight, because if he comes just the slightest bit unprepared, then I think George can take this into the deep rounds and frustrate Teofimo a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think it's a valid concern on your part. I know many people will have the same concerns as you, so I think we'll see how long this volatile situation can hold for. But back to Taylor Ramirez, that's the big fight Saturday. Armando and Victor, I want to hear why you're picking Ramirez, who's like I think he's like a 2.5 to 1 underdog.
Oh, I'll start. So we were talking about going back, 40 minutes on boxing during dinner. We were talking about how Jose Ramirez may not, he's overcome so much, right, to be where he is at this point of his career. I think he's an excellent student of the game. He's a guy that I believe learned from the Victor Postol fight, and Josh Taylor by logic, right? And I know, by logic, I could come out and say Josh Taylor's going to win by decision. He's a better boxer. We saw what he did against Regis Prograis. I thought it was a masterful performance. Jose Ramirez, I just think he just has something about him that can't lose attitude. And I hate picking fights that way, right? Because it defies logic. It defies me, and David knows this, because the glove's somewhere by here in a case. Pernell Whitaker is my favorite fighter of all time, and by logic, Pernell Whitaker cannot be touched. But Jose Ramirez, he like Victor said, it's like you're tired of saying like Jose Ramirez reached the peak of his career here or here or here. He just defies the odds. 2.5. I don't think it's that big an odds when you're talking about Jose Ramirez and Jose Ramirez, like he did with Maurice Hooker. I just think he's gonna unleash hell at some point. I mean, I think it's gonna be I don't know if in the later rounds, or maybe he wins a close decision. But I'm picking him to win against Josh Taylor.
I am very concerned now that we're mentioning Maurice Hooker and Josh Taylor ostensibly in the same breath, because I don't even want to think about what Josh Taylor would do to Maurice Hooker.
Oh, probably worse.
But look, I do know a lot of people picking Ramirez. I do agree with you. I know I'm busting balls a little bit. I do agree that the 2.5 to 1 in favor of Josh Taylor is probably not fair to Jose Ramirez. But what I just see is Josh Taylor. What is Jose Ramirez good at, right? Inside fighting. Josh Taylor is great at inside fighting. He's super strong on the inside, and he's a bigger guy than Jose. I think he's probably stronger. We saw what he did against Regis Prograis, and then we saw Jose Ramirez actually against Victor Postol. I thought that was a fight that could have gone either way. I thought it was a pretty close fight. I also thought Jose Ramirez had a pretty close fight with Jose Cepeda. I actually scored it for Cepeda. So
yeah, that was a tough fight.
So you say all he does is win, and yeah, he does officially, but I think he has a little bit of that Canelo home cooking in favor of him.
Mike, any concerns with the fact that Taylor's coming over here just for the what would be the 4th time in his career, hasn't fought in the United States since 2017? That always seems to catch my eye. Like Anthony Joshua's a perfect example. I know he's fought in the States before. Personally, I'm just tired of betting against Jose Ramirez and looking wrong, so I decided to go with him, especially since I've spoken to him numerous times. So I'm biased towards on that side. But I've always been hesitant to side with someone who's making a long way. And I know he's been here for a week already and getting accustomed to the time change. But anytime they cross that pond, man, it always worries me.
Yeah, look, that is fair. I have bet, Jose, he is an easy guy to pick against. It makes you look bad. Kind of reminds me of Bernard Hopkins. I bet against Bernard Hopkins, I think once, and then I was like, never again.
Which fight?
Trying to remember. You know what? I'm lying. I bet on Bernard Hopkins. I bet on Bernard Hopkins to beat Kelly Pavlik and to beat Tarver. I hit on both of those. And then I made the mistake of picking Pascal against Hopkins. I did the reverse, actually. And then I did the reverse. So Jose Ramirez, really good fighter, really good guy. Like one of the nicest guys in boxing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great fight, honestly. But I do think if Josh Taylor wins in fashion, that he could really be a big star in the UK. I mean, he has a great personality. He's a good-looking guy. He talks a lot of shit. We can curse on here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just did, bro.
I'm used to the Triller broadcast now. What
Ask
can I say?
producer. Ask your producer over there.
But Mike, one of the things I said when we were talking about the reasons why Jose Ramirez was going to win, I said maybe I like the kid too damn much. Maybe I like his family too damn much. Like he's such, like you said, he's such a good dude. Like probably one of the best dudes in boxing. And I, like, you know, just as a fan, I want to see the kid win. I want to see him succeed. And I think he has what it takes to win on Saturday. And if he doesn't, there's no shame. I mean, if he loses to the top guy at 140. And you know, and he has plenty of fights to be made because like you said, at 135, you have a whole bunch of guys that are good, but they're really young. They're really, really young, and they're just going to grow into their body. So before you know it, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, even Tank, who's going to be fighting at 140 now, they're all going to be part of that 140 division.
That was a lot of fun when Josh Taylor and Tank were talking shit on Twitter. Remember that after I think that was after Josh Taylor's win over Regis Prograis. But man, if Josh Taylor wins on Fashion Saturday, him and Teofimo Lopez would be a monster fight, I think.
Like, do either of these guys stay at 140 or do they go chase the money at 147?
I think, we could easily see them both at 147. But I think the big question mark there, right, as we talked about on Telemundo on Friday, was Terrence Crawford. His contract expires in October, and everything I hear points to him leaving. So if he's going to leave, if you're Taylor or Ramirez and you move up to 47, who do you fight then? But if Crawford stays with Top Rank, then Machine. I think you're right.
Mean Machine is the answer to everything.
He's the only guy there. He's going to fight all of them.
Actually, I don't know if people know this, but Top Rank actually recently released Mean Machine. I can't believe they released the GOAT. But I am hearing now we're going to maybe see a fight between Mean Machine and Virgil Ortiz over the summer. That's in talks.
Virgil Ortiz, and I'm sure we could talk boxing all night. Regrettably, we probably won't. But Virgil Ortiz is just so under the radar. Like, he's got this attitude about him as if he's just like some guy working his way up, and he's like on the cusp of stardom. And he's just like, yeah, I'll fight anybody. It's kind of not a big deal.
And what camp does he come from?
Robert Garcia.
Another reason why I got Ramirez on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Mikey Garcia did beat Errol Spence. So.
One of two divisions, bro. Come on, Mike.
That's it. I'm putting all my chips in now.
That's the one you're gonna throw at me.
Can we end on that note? That was perfect.
We can, because we've been going for like definitely more than an hour. And Alex Sanchez, our editor, who Mike Coppinger also knows from the NFL Network. Alex Sanchez is going to be editing all this. So Alex, we're sorry we went over by a lot, but Mike, thanks for being on with us here on Boxing During Dinner. We promise you dinner soon, because you'll be down here. We'll go to Randazzo's or another great establishment down here, and we'll record all in person. Hopefully with no masks, and we're all vaccinated and stuff. So
yeah, man.
We're all good.
Do the ropes.
Hey, I am vaccinated, but it has to be Randazzo's. I've heard too much now, and I want to make sure this bet is on. Me and David versus you, Victor, and you, Armando. We have Taylor. You have Ramirez. Do you want to throw in like an extra salad if you win? We can do that since Taylor's the favorite. Maybe some breadsticks. I don't know what they have on the Randazzo's menu. But
what's the dessert, David?
I was gonna say I think the tiramisu might be the difference maker. So we'll toss in a tiramisu if we're wrong. How about that?
So all right. So if we win, we just get dinner. If they win, they get dinner plus dessert.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Okay.
All right.
2.5 to 1.
2.5 to 1. Damn good dessert.
Guys, again, this was fun. Boxing During Dinner is back after a long time. We do need to find a segment to name after Harold Letterman, who was our favorite guest, and it's been two years since his passing. And Harold was a guy, and to end it on you know, it sucks because it's a sad note. You know, he passed 2 years ago, but to those who knew him, he just brought so much to boxing, to life. I mean, we all knew him. We all, you know, spent time with him, dinner with him many times, not at Randazzo's, but at many other establishments. And, you know, dude, you know, he took a chance with everybody, right? Like David and I were doing boxing during dinner from like Alex Sanchez's apartment, and you know, Harold's like, sure, you know, Armando, call me, it's fine, you know, and we're like, you know, calling Harold Letterman, and and he's happy to come on with us, but yeah, we need to name a segment after Harold, and we need to do boxing during dinner in person with Mike Coppinger, and we need to take Jordani Zugas to a proper establishment, because now you laugh, Mike, but Jordani Zugas, who's now a WBA champ, whether you want to call it legit or not or whatever, but he has a WBA belt, was in Alex Sanchez's apartment doing boxing during dinner.
That is true. Back when he was a 135 pounder without a belt.
And he's about to make a boatload of money fighting Errol Spence this summer on Fox pay-per-view. So he can buy everyone dinner now, I'm sure. And shout out to Alex Sanchez. Really good dude. One of the best guys I met at NFL Network.
Alex Sanchez, amazing. And that's another one, 2 kids since we last filmed Boxing During Dinner. But this has been Boxing During Dinner, and we'll catch you next time with some tiramisu and some other dessert, courtesy of David and Mike.
Ooh.